Just touching on the Vanderbilt game, I thought we had our opportunities there, but we kind of shot ourselves in the foot with the 18 turnovers. But more importantly, the 24 points off the turnovers. I thought we defended really well to hold a team like Vanderbilt to 55 points on their home court. I think Bo spoke well of our defense, but we just didn't give ourselves an opportunity to win the ball game when you give away 24 points on turnovers. And the thing that was disappointing were they were unforced turnovers. Vanderbilt didn't pressure us, didn't press us. Just kind of packed it in man-to-man, but mostly with the zone. So we just got to find a way not to have those unforced turnovers. And then the other thing is the past 2 ball games, we've only gotten to the free throw line 6 times apiece. So we've got to get back in an attacking mode and get into the free throw line.
Questions?
Talking to your guys, it seems like, especially ones like Gavin, that obviously were here last year during the long losing streak. And it seemed like last year when you talked about the losing streak, they really had no answers, couldn't point to the reasons. But I know it's not a moral victory, but it seems like Gavin, they know what the problem is. It's just a matter of fixing it. It seems like they're learning more from their mistakes this year, just through experience, I guess.
Well, I think, it's just different for those guys because they were all incoming guys. They were freshmen. Newcomers as far as junior college guys, so they really didn't have any sort of expectations of what was going on because they didn't know the system, they didn't know what SEC basketball was all about, so they really didn't have any answers. I think now that our expectations are a little higher, we expect to win some of these games, and so now once you know what your expectations are and you lose some of those games, now how do you address what the actual issue is? I think last year we didn't know the issue.
Hearing you talk to Jim after the Vanderbilt game about defensive execution in the second half, and a lot of people look and say, hey, you gave up 55. That's a good indication of the defense. But does it kind of speak to how razor thin your margin of error might be just with the amount of offense that you guys can put up, and just how well you have to defend?
Well, I don't think so. I think first of all, we were 4th in the SEC in scoring offense, before this week. I think, first of all, that Coach Stallings is an excellent coach, and his game plan and the way he prepares his team is probably the best in the SEC, along with Billy Donovan. But I think what is when you're on the road and you have those defensive breakdowns. But I think the biggest thing, though, Matt, is it's hard to guard turnovers. And I think if you look at their points in the second half and their 55% field goal percentage, it mostly came off the fact that we were kind of defending our own mistakes. And so when you're defending your own mistakes, you tend to have more defensive breakdowns. But I thought when our defense was set, we wasn't running down turnovers, I thought we were pretty good defensively.
You talked about not getting to the free throw line. Does that mean that y'all are just going to have to start making the shots outside, find somebody to knock them down outside to maybe open up those lanes to get back to the free throw line?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One is the teams are just playing a zone. I mean, I've never seen so much zone in my life, in my career. And what we have to do is we have to find a way to get people out of the zone by knocking down some shots, what you're talking about. But I think what we can't do, though, is we can't settle. I think when people play a zone, we settle for shots. And I think we need to continue to probe and do what we are, which is attack the zone. And so when we're in a man-to-man, we have a lot more driving lanes, and there's more opportunity to attack those lanes. But I still think we have some driving lanes in the zone, and we got to do a better job as a coaching staff of exposing those driving lanes and giving our guys the opportunity to see them.
Not to maybe try to search for moral victories, but against Vanderbilt, you guys were down 13, and then in the previous 4 road games, it kind of ballooned to 20 or whatever. This time, it cut it down to 4. Did you see some growth in the team where they didn't really maybe curl in the corner, they fought back?
Yeah, I think so, and I think part of that was, Jacoby Davis, I think did a good job doing that spin. He knocked down a couple of threes, did a really good job of finding some driving lanes in the zone and getting some other guys some other opportunities for shots. So I think he played a part in that. But, we're still talking about, and I don't want to harp on this as being an excuse, but we're still talking about a very young and inexperienced team because when everybody you want to turn to make a play is a sophomore or a freshman.
Gavin talked a few minutes ago about kind of the team's, I guess, confidence being at its climax or being at the highest during the Texas A&M game previously. How do you get the team back to that, coming up for Wednesday?
Well, that's the thing you have to make sure. Coaching is not just the X's and O's; it's also being a psychologist too. And what you got to do is you got to make sure that you're getting your guys They recognizing what their mistakes were and what their missed opportunities were, but not harping on those things and not letting it go into your next game. And so what we got to do is like, hey, we got to address our errors, what we did wrong, but we don't want to beat our guys down with those mistakes. We got to get them ready for the next game.
I talked to IJ about, as a floor leader, what he saw out of Fred to let him kind of get off early like he did. He just said, I tried to keep reminding Fred how good of a player he is. Is it really that simple? And maybe Fred seeing the first one fall and going, okay, yeah, let me take another one. This is going well. This is going good.
Well, I don't know if it's that simple or that complex. I don't know which one it is.
Okay.
But we need Fred to be a good basketball player for us because he plays a lot of minutes. I think he's become our best perimeter defender of our wings that we play. So I just think it's important for him that he has some sort of a flow to him. And the thing I want, when it's all said and done, is I just want Fred out there playing with some excitement and exuberance, even if he's not scoring. I just don't want that to be the reason that Fred Thomas is out there flying around because he's scoring a few buckets. I want him to be flying around irregardless of the situation. And that's the thing. I just want him to have a great demeanor every time he sets foot on the court, not worry about the scoring, because the scoring will come.
Maybe compared to last year, though, when he was going through some struggles, do you feel like the emotion or that the level of excitement is higher than it was last year? Do you feel like there's a light bulb going on that I got to stay with it?
I think I will say this. I don't know if it's higher or lower, but I don't think it's like the ebb and flow as it was last year. I thought sometimes it was like extreme highs and extreme lows, and now he's understanding like he got to be a little bit more even keel and continue to play at a high level regardless of the situation.
I think that of all the BCS conferences, there's 9 teams that haven't won a road game. 5 of those teams are in the SEC. What does that number kind of tell you, or what does it explain about the conference?
Oh, I don't know for sure, Michael. I think once you start looking at schedules and comparing BCS teams, there are a lot of factors there. I don't know if there's been as many road opportunities for some of the teams that's in the bottom half of the ACC or Big 12 or Big 10. You'd have to sit there and examine that. So I don't know what to say about that at this point in time.
What's different? I mean, I know you don't like to talk about difference between home and road games, but is there a difference? What do you kind of see, or without trying to make a difference, because I know you don't like doing that, but what is it about the road that just is so difficult for teams in general, not necessarily yours?
Well, I think it's familiarity for that home team. I think every home team feels so much more comfortable playing their own venue, so they have more confidence. And so now you're traveling on the road, and now you got to make sure that you got to have a situation when you knock down their level of confidence, because it's been ingrained in everybody, hey, that you win at home and you have some problems on the road. So kids think that going into the situation regardless of what you're telling them.
Teams that you've been associated with in the past as assistant coach, the ones that's won on the road, have they been more experienced teams?
Yeah, no question about it. I think the teams that I've had success with in the past is like they've been experienced, veteran-laden teams. And I think what's also happened too is, as your guys get more accustomed to being in those venues, like for our guys that are freshmen and sophomores, it's the first time they ever played at Kentucky, the first time they ever played at Arkansas. But by the time they're juniors and seniors, it's almost like it's old hat because they played there before, and it's not a new experience, and they're never in all of that.
What's the happy balance when you see so much zone? I think the mentality is, well, we got to shoot them out of it. But there's gaps and there's holes that you can get into that zone where you don't necessarily have to put up as many threes as you did against Vanderbilt. And the guys came in here and said, I think we shot too many three-pointers and we didn't find those gaps. Is that kind of a key to finding that happy medium?
Well, I think the one thing that you got to make sure you do is, like, we want to be in an attack mode and transition. So the first key to being in that attack mode and transition when you're playing a team that plays zone is getting stops on the defensive end. Because most people, what they try to do is they try to be in some sort of a zone on makes for sure, and then on misses, sometimes they feel like they can't get back to their zone responsibilities, so they don't go back to a zone. So if you can get stops and get in an attack mode in your transition, I think that's the first key to having some success against the zone. I think the second thing is, once you attack in that zone, is now it becomes a shot clock situation. Do you want to flow into some sort of a zone offense, or do you want to do a set play? So, now we've got to figure out which one we want to do as a coaching staff against that particular team. And I think the last thing is like making your guys feel good about making plays against zone. I think guys really feel comfortable about making plays against man because that's what they've done their whole life, their whole career. But making those plays against zone sometimes becomes a little bit more complicated for them.